Are we really seeing the world as it is? What if I told you that the reality you see every day might be nothing more than a carefully constructed illusion? Calm down. We're not talking about science fiction or conspiracy theories, but about something philosophers, mystics, and even physicists have been trying to reveal for centuries. Perhaps you've never really seen the world as it truly is. Since childhood, we've been taught that what's real is what you can see, touch, and hear. But what if your senses are limited? What if your beliefs are programmed? What if the truth lies precisely in what you've never stopped to question? That feeling of emptiness, disconnection, or life on autopilot might not be a flaw, but a calling. A deep whisper inviting you to tear down the veil and look beyond the curtain. This video isn't just another reflection, it's a mirror. One that might show you why you feel stuck, confused, or like something's missing in your existence. And more importantly, how you can start seeing reality with new eyes, deeper, awakened, and truly your own. But before anything else, a warning. Once the veil falls, the game changes. Because when the illusion breaks, there are no more excuses, only real decisions. Reality as illusion. Have you ever had a dream so vivid that waking up felt like a loss? Strangely, life might be closer to that than we think. Ancient philosophers like Plato spoke of the allegory of the cave, a place where people only saw shadows on a wall, believing that was the truth, unaware that outside there was a world full of light and color. What if that's our situation? Modern science is starting to raise an eyebrow at this too. What our eyes perceive is just a sliver of the electromagnetic spectrum, and what we hear is a tiny fraction of the vibrations around us. We're surrounded by data we simply ignore because our bodies aren't built to receive it. It's like living with a blindfold, or rather, a veil. Subtle, elegant, but still there. And that changes everything, doesn't it? In spirituality, this veil has many names: Maya, illusion, ignorance, unconsciousness. Many teachers say our mission here is to lift that veil and see beyond appearances. And so comes the big question: if life is a theater, who's the director? And more so, are we merely actors, or can we also write the script? This is where things get interesting, because once you start to suspect that reality might be filtered mentally, culturally, energetically, you begin to sense something hidden behind the curtain. And once that happens, it becomes hard to sleep peacefully again. The limits of human perception. Eyes, ears, skin, tongue, nose. These are our windows to the world. But have you ever really thought about how limited they are? We perceive less than 1% of the light spectrum and hear only a narrow range of vibrations, which means that even right now, there are colors, sounds, and frequencies around you, and you're not aware of them. We live in a filtered reality. That's why trusting our senses blindly is like trying to understand a movie by only watching the trailer. Here's a fun fact: many animals perceive much more than we do. Bees see ultraviolet, bats see with sound, dogs detect scents we can't even imagine. If nature gave them such sharp senses, why do ours feel so basic? Some researchers believe this isn't a flaw, but a filter, a way to keep us focused on survival without overwhelming us with the infinite layers of reality around us. But what if life isn't just about surviving? What if it's about awakening, seeing beyond the senses, beyond matter, and connecting with what can't be touched but is deeply felt? Maybe that's why spiritual teachers speak of eyes that see and ears that hear, not literally, but spiritually. Because truly seeing isn't just detecting light, it's perceiving the invisible. And truly hearing isn't just processing sound, it's understanding the silence that speaks. So how do we start developing those inner senses? Spiritual traditions, the world as a mirror or illusion. While science analyzes reality with instruments, spiritual traditions observe it with the eyes of the soul. And you know what they say? The world we see is a mirror, a reflection of what we carry within. In Buddhism, for example, there's the concept of Maya, an illusion seducing us with forms, sounds, and sensations. But behind the illusion lies a profound silence only the heart can see. In Hinduism, this idea appears again. Outer reality is called Leela, the divine play. It's as if God hides behind matter, waiting to be seen in the details. In Christian mysticism, we hear the kingdom of heaven is within you, meaning reality isn't out there, but inside, and that changes everything. These traditions don't seek to deny the physical world, quite the opposite. They want us to see it as it truly is, temporary, symbolic, interactive, a stage where our beliefs, emotions, and vibrations shape our experience. That's why life changes when you change internally. When you align with love, gratitude, or presence, the world responds as if it had been waiting for you. It's like that old saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. But the teacher doesn't always show up in white robes. Sometimes it appears as a challenge, a discomfort, a deep question. And that's when the veil begins to tear, when we realize that every experience carries a hidden lesson. But are we ready to see the signs? Quantum physics and a new understanding of reality. Now it's science's turn to amaze us. And not just any science, but quantum physics. Strange, fascinating, and unsettling. Quantum experiments reveal something magical. Reality behaves differently when observed. That's right, the mere act of observing changes what happens. It sounds like fiction, but it's real physics. The double-slit experiment is famous for this. Subatomic particles like electrons act like waves until they're observed. Once measured, they behave like particles. In other words, the way we look at reality changes it. That raises a bold question. Are we creating the world just by observing it? And it doesn't stop there. Quantum physics also speaks of non-locality, particles influencing each other instantly, even at great distances, as if everything were connected by invisible threads beyond time and space. Remind you of something? Perhaps that feeling that everything is intertwined, nothing is random. Spiritual traditions call it oneness. Scientists still scratch their heads trying to explain this, but for those on a spiritual path, these discoveries aren't so shocking. They confirm what ancient teachers have always said: consciousness shapes reality. And if consciousness is that powerful, then who are you choosing to be when no one's watching? The impact of consciousness on reality, thought, vibration, and intention. If everything is connected, and if reality responds to the observer, then our thoughts must shape the world. This isn't just self-help talk, it's vibrational science. Every emotion carries a frequency, and those frequencies interact with the field around us. Ever notice how your day goes wrong when you start it complaining? Or how everything flows when you're at peace? Dr. Masaru Emoto's experiments with water showed this power clearly. He exposed water to words like love and hate, then froze the samples. The water formed either beautiful or chaotic crystals, depending on the emotion directed toward it. Now remember, your body is mostly water, so imagine the impact of your thoughts on you. Intention is like a seed planted in the field of reality. If you sow fear, you reap limitation. If you sow courage, you reap expansion. But it's not enough to think positively for 5 minutes and then spend the rest of the day in doubt. It's a daily alignment, a vibrational state. Meditation, affirmations, mantras, prayer, these are all ways to tune your mind to what you want to manifest. Maybe that's the universe's best-kept secret. You already have everything you need to shape your reality. You just have to learn how to direct and protect your energy, because the world is always listening, always feeling, always vibrating back what you send. So, what have you been vibrating lately? Reality as inner reflection. There's an idea as powerful as it is uncomfortable. The outer world is a mirror of your inner world, not of what you say you are, but of what you truly feel when no one's looking. That silent energy you carry inside, that's what colors your experience. Haven't you noticed how life flows better when you feel light? And how the universe throws obstacles when you're not okay with yourself? It's as if reality were emotionally reactive. If you believe the world is hostile, you'll see hostility everywhere. Not because the world truly is, but because your lenses are fogged. And if you believe everything is possible, even in chaos, opportunities start to appear. It all starts from one principle. The universe responds to your frequency. This isn't just poetry. Quantum physics shows us that the observer influences what is observed. Psychology calls it belief systems. Spirituality calls it vibration. But the message is the same. What you believe intensely, you project. And what you project returns to you. So if your life feels like a negative loop, maybe it's time to ask yourself, what part of me is creating this? It's a hard question, but also a liberating one, because if you created it, you can transform it, you can rewrite it. That's the beginning of a higher level of awareness, when you realize you're no longer a victim of life, but a co-creator of the script you're living. And once you get to that point, there's no going back. The layers of reality, dimensions, planes, and states of consciousness. What we call reality may be just the ground floor of a building with infinite stories. Many spiritual traditions, and now even some scientific theories, suggest that existence is layered. Physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, all overlapping like radio frequencies. And we only tune in to what matches our internal frequency. So when you change frequency, you change your experience. That's why some people have vivid dreams, visions, sensations of presences. In deep meditative states, people report encounters with beings from other dimensions, past life memories, spiritual guides. These stories aren't new. They've been told across cultures for thousands of years. But now, science is starting to pay attention. Spiritism speaks of vibrational planes. Hinduism describes subtle bodies. Buddhism sees the mind as a field that expands beyond the body. Even ancient Egypt spoke of vehicles of the soul. Curiously, all of this aligns with what quantum physics now calls the multiverse, as if what the ancient sages taught is starting to be scientifically validated. But beyond theory, there's a practical truth. The higher your consciousness, the deeper the reality you can access. Just like a radio can't tune into all stations, you can't access higher planes if you're stuck in low vibrations. And that ladder upward, it starts with silence, presence, and intention. The veil of mental programming. From a young age, we begin absorbing other people's truths as if they were our own. Life is hard. Money is dirty. You can't trust anyone. Dreaming is for fools. These phrases, repeated like mantras, program our minds with codes that limit how we see the world. It's like someone installed invisible software inside us, and we didn't even notice. What's even more surprising is how rarely we question these ideas. We adopt them because they come from authority figures, parents, teachers, culture, religion, and we normalize them. Then we go through life repeating patterns, making automatic decisions, reliving the same dramas, without realizing we're acting out a script we didn't even write. The veil isn't just external, it's woven inside us too. Here's the turning point. Awakening means questioning the script, asking, do I really believe this, or was I taught to believe it? That's where personal power begins, and to cross that threshold, there are many tools. Therapy, meditation, journaling, breathwork, retreats, books, transformative conversations. Anything that helps you see clearly and rewrite your story. It's a beautiful thing when you start doing that. The world begins to change with you. What once seemed normal now irritates you. People you admired stop inspiring you. Places you once loved lose their magic. And at the same time, new connections, ideas, and paths start to open up. As if life were saying, "Welcome back, you're finally seeing." Intuition as a guide to truth. Have you ever felt a strong gut feeling you couldn't explain? A certainty that arrives without logic, but with deep conviction? That quiet nudge that says, "Don't go there," or "Call that person now." That's intuition, a kind of inner compass that many silence in favor of logic, but which, when honored, never fails. Many spiritual masters say intuition is the language of the soul. It doesn't speak in words, but in sensations, chills, inner whispers, gut knots, peaceful surges. But we're so used to seeking answers outside that we forget the immense wisdom inside. And here's the catch: the more you ignore intuition, the louder it gets. To reconnect with it, one thing is needed: silence. Not necessarily on the outside, but within. Breathe, observe, feel. Start with small decisions. Follow gentle nudges that uplift you rather than sabotage you. Call that person who crossed your mind. Avoid that place that gave you a bad vibe. Take that path your soul is pointing to. The more you listen, the clearer it gets. And here's the magic: intuition doesn't always lead to the easiest path, but to the most necessary one. Because it doesn't answer to fear, it answers to purpose. It aligns what you feel with who you are. And maybe the truth you've been searching for isn't in a book, a guru, or a video. Maybe it's in that gentle voice that's been with you all along. The awakening of consciousness. When the veil begins to fall, the awakening of consciousness doesn't arrive with fireworks. Most of the time, it starts with discomfort, a quiet dissatisfaction with what once seemed normal. Suddenly, you no longer connect with certain conversations, jobs, or habits. What used to entertain you now bores you. What you used to tolerate now weighs you down. It's as if something inside is whispering, "This no longer belongs to me." It's not that the world has gotten worse, it's that your eyes have changed. The structures that once sustained you no longer fit. And here, something beautiful and terrifying happens. The veil begins to fall. You realize many certainties were illusions. Many people were masks, and many beliefs were prisons disguised as wisdom. This process can hurt because tearing down the veil means letting go of parts of yourself, of the version you thought you were. But it's also a rebirth. As the layers fall away, your true essence begins to emerge. Peace isn't something external. Purpose isn't in the future. Self-love doesn't depend on others. All of that was already inside you. That's when you begin to live from another place, a place that's more authentic, more silent, more profound. It doesn't mean you stop feeling fear, anger, or sadness, but now they no longer control you. They visit, yes, but you decide. That's where true freedom begins. And also true responsibility. Because once the veil falls, there's no turning back. Conscious choices, creating reality with intention. Once awakened, you can no longer live on autopilot. You realize that every thought, word, and decision carries energetic weight. And more than that, it has consequences. So what once seemed trivial, like what you eat, what you watch, who you spend time with, becomes sacred. Because you understand, all of it builds the vibrational field you're projecting into the world. Conscious choices aren't necessarily perfect, but they are aligned. Aligned with your values, your essence, your current level of consciousness. You begin deciding from the present, not from fear or guilt. You stop saying yes just to please. You stop postponing what your soul is begging for. And you learn something powerful. Every choice is an act of creation. Sometimes that means disappointing others, leaving relationships that no longer nourish you, quitting jobs that no longer resonate, releasing habits that don't honor your body. And yes, all of that is scary, but it also gives you your power back. Because you no longer wait for life to change, you become the change, and life responds. Then you realize that creating reality isn't about controlling the world, it's about owning your frequency within it. And that frequency is built with attention, intention, and presence. It's not always easy, but it's always worth it. Because every decision made from your truth is a brick in the path to the life you deserve. Shared reality, how our vibrations shape the collective field. Reality isn't just an individual journey. It's a collective vibration, a field of shared frequencies where each of us contributes thoughts, feelings, and energy. Ever notice how a negative person changes the mood in a room? Or how a joyful group lifts everyone's spirits? Everything vibrates, everything communicates, and everything amplifies. We live immersed in a field where fear, anger, hope, or love aren't private, they're collective forces. When masses vibrate in anxiety, the atmosphere becomes heavy. But when people gather to meditate, pray, or express gratitude, something shifts. Studies have shown drops in crime rates during mass prayer events. Coincidence? Probably not. Your vibration, even in silence, impacts the whole. A kind word can change someone's day. A bitter thought can affect a room. So imagine if each of us elevated our frequency just a little every day. The world would literally transform, because the collective field responds to every energetic seed we plant. And that raises a powerful question. What are you planting? What thoughts are you nurturing, even quietly? What emotions are you radiating without realizing it? Because there are no more excuses now. We're all co-creators of this shared reality, and every small choice contributes to the whole. The mission behind the veil. Why are we here? After everything we've explored, one big question remains. If reality is an illusion, if the world is a mirror, if everything is interconnected, why are we here? What's the point of incarnating in such a limited, challenging, dualistic reality? The oldest traditions all seem to agree on one thing. We came here to remember. Remember who we are, where we came from, where we're going. We came to experience, to evolve, to awaken. This world isn't a prison, it's a school, a place where the soul expands through every challenge, every wound, every surrender. Crises aren't punishments, they're invitations. Loss isn't the end, it's a portal. And pain, though uncomfortable, is often the deepest teacher. Awakening doesn't mean escaping the world, it means seeing it with new eyes. Realizing that every encounter, emotion, and fall holds a lesson, that chaos is part of order, that the shadow reveals the light, that ego is a stage, not a curse, and that the soul always knew the way. That's why the most spiritual thing you can do might not be meditating 8 hours a day or retreating to the mountains. Maybe it's living with awareness, loving with presence, choosing with soul, walking this world without losing your essence, because even if it's all a stage, the journey is real, and you're here for a reason. Now that you know there's a veil, what will you do with that knowledge? Will you keep living as if nothing has changed? Or will you start to see the world with new eyes, awakened, sincere, truly yours? Because the truth is this. You're already creating your reality, whether you know it or not. Every thought, every emotion, every choice, it's all painting the canvas of your life. Maybe something stirred in you during this video, a discomfort, a calling, a quiet voice saying, stop surviving. Because yes, you've been through a lot, but now it's time to remember, to question what once felt absolute, to take off the lenses of fear, guilt, and I'm not enough, and finally, to look with an open soul. What beliefs are you still carrying that were never truly yours? What structures are you maintaining out of habit, not purpose? What version of yourself are you ready to manifest if you choose to cross the veil? Awakening isn't something external. It's an internal revolution, and it begins the moment you stop running from yourself. If this content moved you, awakened something, or helped you see differently, this is just the beginning. Subscribe to the channel, activate the notifications, and share this message with someone who needs to hear it. Because we're not here to repeat what you already know. We're here to remind you of what you've forgotten. See you on the other side of the veil.